What's up guys, it's Everett here, and in this video we're going to do some mobility work for arm flexion or shoulder flexion, meaning taking your arm above your head. So just going through everyday life, whether it's taking something heavy off a shelf or if you like barbell pressing overhead, Olympic lifting, really important. We'll cover one stretch, and as always the proper cues to make sure we're getting the best benefit from spending the time stretching, and then some mobility work, because obviously when you lift your arms overhead, you're the one lifting your arms, so you have to have that neuromuscular connection, you have to be strong, and we talk about this a lot in the FRS system, the mobility system I work within. If you just stretch, that's a passive input and you get passive results, whereas moving requires activity, so you have to train and prepare your body to be mobile and active and be able to move. So with that said, let's actually hop into the first stretch. So the stretch we'll be doing, you can do kneeling or standing, and really a bench or a countertop, a chair is perfect for this. Now as always, we want to make sure we're actually stretching the areas of the body that need to be stretched, and we're not just using other areas of the body to compensate for this lack of flexibility. So again, when you raise your arms up overhead, a lot of people just tend on arching that low back so that it looks like their hands are above their head, and they are, but you're putting a lot of strain on just like maybe one or two vertebrae. This is very common in lifting with dumbbells or barbells, huge amount of extension in the back. You start to feel a little bit of back pain. So you will get a little bit of extension, that's fine, but you want to make sure that that back is not cheating for your lack of shoulder mobility. So when we set up here, I like to go fingers spread like this. That way I can't rotate my shoulders. I'm kind of pinned and locked down. And then all we're gonna do is sit the hips backwards and send the upper chest and the head through the arms. So very simple stretch. Just looks like this. Super easy. So we're gonna do that for 2 minutes. Now, you need to make sure your hips are also even, because if your hips are rotated, you're actually gonna be stretching like one lat, which goes all the way up to the shoulder and the arm, and that'll affect the stretch itself. Now, it's not wrong to kind of shift the hips purposefully to get an increase of a stretch on one side versus the other, but if you're set up for that 2 minutes with tilted hips, you're gonna be stretching one side unevenly. So the major compensation that I look for in this stretch is what I talked about just a second ago, and that's using your spine. So say, if I'm being honest with myself, I can only stretch at my lats and my shoulders this far. Well, to get further down, what I'm gonna end up doing is just arching the back really hard, okay? So that's, again, similar to barbell pressing overhead. You try to push straight up, you can't really do it, so you just end up leaning way backwards and putting a lot of stress on most likely your lumbar or lower thoracic spine. So pretty simple. We've done this a lot of the other videos. Breathe into your stomach. Try to get your ribs down so they're not flared up. Get your hips right underneath the ribs. Breathe into your stomach, and then tighten up the abs a little bit. That's gonna keep the spine in a neutral position, and then get the hands, fingers spread, lean back into that stretch, okay? And that's gonna keep you a lot more honest in that position. Now, as always, just find lines of tension and stretch through them. So again, it's okay to get a little bit of extension in the spine. It's okay to rotate the hips a little bit. Just do it with intention and for a certain purpose. Don't just rotate the hips to get deeper, because that's not gonna help you. And don't just bend your spine to get deeper. That's not gonna help the shoulders, all right? So 2 minutes in that position, and then we're gonna move on to our mobility movement. We'll be performing this movement in the prone or face down position, and these are called hovers. They're from the FRS system. So as you can see, I'm just lifting up my arms, which are perfectly straight, over 2 tennis balls. So my arms are starting out in a Y position. So if you think about doing the YMCA, that old dance, Y position, I'm lifting, and then I'm going up into an I position, or perfect overhead flexion. Now, this is much easier, again, if you use your spine and start to arch your back. So as always, we want to breathe deeply into the mid ribs in the stomach, and then clench down the abs. Think about pulling your ribs to your pelvis, just like you're doing a plank. Once we have that tension, we're going to get the shoulder blades and shoulders nice and even, and then lift the hands up as far as they can possibly go without using the rest of the body to get them higher, and then moving those hands closer together into that I position, and then setting them down nice and slowly with control. You might have to take a quick second rest, readjust, get some air back in your stomach, and then once again lift the hands right off the ground and return into the Y position. Now you might be wondering, well, why not just do this standing with some light weights or maybe some bands? You might have seen someone do that at the gym. That's not wrong, but typically people use momentum and their legs to get a little higher up with their arms than they can actually do on their own. So we're practicing the very end of our usable range of motion. So right where we start to break down in our mobility, we're practicing getting stronger in this position, and that involves a small, isolated, very controlled movement. And you can see here I'm rounding at the back, almost doing like a skydive or a Superman pose for an abs and core workout, and that's allowing my arms to get much higher off of the ground. If this is too easy, I've got two little cardboard boxes here. You can find something similar, and just a couple inches makes this much more difficult. You can see my face turning really bright red. Again, this is only 4 inches taller, but man, it feels like, in terms of say squatting, 100 pounds to 300 pounds. It is significantly more different, and I need to get a big contraction with all my back muscles and shoulder muscles to barely go over those boxes, and you can see I'm tapping them and almost knocking them over. This is extremely difficult. A final option is still using a lower object to pass your hands over, but I've got the tennis balls now in my hands and I'm squeezing. So as I squeeze those tennis balls or lacrosse balls, there's more tension throughout my entire body, and that means I'll have less range of motion. Ideally, I want as much range of motion with as much tension, because that's true strength. And true strength is, one, very useful, but secondly, makes your tissues, your muscles, your tendons much more resilient to trauma and outside forces, which can help you not get injured. So there it is. Looks too simple to be effective, but when you're a beginner or you have a lot of work to do, keeping it simple but consistent and making sure you're doing things the right way, that's what's most effective for you. So set a goal, do this for 7 days straight, 2 minutes of stretching and then a couple reps, 3 sets of 3, there and back, or more than that, 3 by 5, and then slowly increase that distance. Or if you're at the place where you can do it already, grab some tennis balls, some lacrosse balls, add a little bit of tension. So as always, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm uploading a lot of videos, and hit the like button if you like the video. It's gonna help other people who have shoulder issues find this video, which helps them out as well. And again, the way I run this channel is with my hip mobility course. It's on my website, link in the description. Only 29 bucks, 16 more videos, 2.5 hours of content. It's this exact same structure, but for your hips, which are kind of important. So thanks again, see you in the next video, and have a great one.